Hi, Roy here, and welcome again to another edition of the Right as Left podcast. I am your host, Roy Garton, and as we do each and every week on these podcasts, we talk all things Trumpism. And, of course, we're going to go ahead and get into our breaking news story already because we got a lot to talk about, especially with the Iranian conflict. Just a lot of breaking news on that and things that have happened, so let's go ahead and get right into it. As you're well aware of, this past 24 to 48 hours, there's been a lot of talk about one of our jets being shot down. And it is true, Iran did shoot down a U.S. F-15E fighter jet. They did recover one pilot, and there is still one missing. Now, what has been breaking on this story is that while they're still looking for the other pilot, 2 rescue helicopters were shot at. The Pentagon did confirm that, and they did escape all without any injuries on that. However, they're now saying that another A-10 aircraft was shot down over the Gulf in Iran, and the Pentagon has not confirmed that, although Iranian media is having a field day with that in fact that they did shoot down an A-10 aircraft. So what does that all mean? Well, we now have 2 military aircraft that have been shot down since this conflict started, and of course they are now doing firing on our rescue helicopters as well. This all comes about as Trump, as you're well aware of, and all of his pressers that he does, is that we are winning the war, that we have obliterated and destroyed almost their entire air defense. We now have air superiority over the Iranian territory, and the war is coming to an end soon, but, we don't know exactly when. So with all of this going on, what does this all mean? I mean, is the war coming to an end? Do we have air superiority? Well, what has actually come out that the media is able to get a hold of with some of their contacts within the White House is the fact of the matter is, and of course CIA has actually confirmed this, we have actually only destroyed about 50% of the missiles and drones that Iran has. This is why they were able to shoot down that F-15E aircraft. And we just pray to God that the second pilot will be recovered, or we don't know if he's been picked up and being held hostage. We don't know if he has, perished. We hope not. But I'm sure they got some intel from the one pilot that they did pick up. And of course, they're not going to talk about that, nor as they shouldn't. But we just hope that the pilot's okay. But getting back to Trump, we don't know why he keeps saying that, this thing is winding down. We've got superiority because, again, we already know he's lying. All right. Otherwise, Iran wouldn't be able to do what they're doing. But it just goes on to show you that the guy, it's getting to the point that you just cannot believe anything that he's saying anymore, because it all comes back to bite him in the butt time after time after time after time. You know it, I know it, and you just got to take it with a grain of salt. So anyway, getting back to these F-15 fighter jet that was shot down. So this is the picture that Iranian media was able to, the one on the left, of course, this is the seat that they recovered to prove the fact is that they did shoot down the aircraft. As you're well aware, when this news first broke, it was Iran that first broke the story, not the U.S. Iran broke the story. They shot down one of our aircraft. Whether the Pentagon knew that or not, they weren't saying a flipping thing at the time because they don't want to. All right. So we have to go back and say, as you know, if this happened, why were they so secretive about it? So once Iran, in fact, had the picture of the seat of the aircraft that they shot down, that they were bragging about, it finally, the Pentagon finally had to admit, okay, it happened. So it's sad that it comes to this, that the person that you're fighting has more information than or willing to put out the story than before the U.S. does, because the media was all over it once Iranian television broke the news that they had this, and finally they were pressured, in fact, by the Pentagon to say, okay, say something. Okay, yes, we confirmed that there was an aircraft shot down. So. And of course, Trump's now back. We're going to be talking about this a little bit later, asking for trillions of more dollars for the Department of Defense. But let's move on to some other breaking stories that is now going on. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. He has just forced out. This is another thing about the Iranian conflict. He has just forced out and made this gentleman, General Randy George, retire immediately from his post. This guy is a genius, and he has been one of the main people spearheading this Iranian attack, not the counterattack, but our battle with Iran. And of course, Pete Hegseth had a tantrum and fired this guy, and he told him he will be retiring immediately. All right. Now, the Department of War, of course, here, they always put this crap out. The Department of War is grateful for General George's decades of service to our nation, and blah, 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 blah. We wish him well in his retirement. He was forced to retire. Pentagon Chief Spokesperson Sean Parnell said in a statement about George, who served as the Army's 41st Chief of Staff. All right. The Army didn't immediately respond to the Hill's request for comment. Lieutenant General Christopher Neve will be currently the Army's Vice Chief of Staff, will be the service's acting Chief of Staff, according to a Pentagon official. General Neve is a generational leader who will help ensure the Army receives the best of the service, and blah 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 blah. All right, so it goes on and on. Hegseth said that in January, George began his tenure as Chief of Staff, normally a 4-year post, in September 2023, after being nominated by former President Biden and confirmed by the Senate. George is a career infantry officer who graduated from West Point. George's ouster makes another removal by senior military officers, by Hegseth, since he took the helm at the Pentagon. The Defense Secretary has fired over a dozen senior military officers, including Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Lisa Franchetti and Air Force Vice Chief of Staff General James Slife. The removal of George marks another instance of tension between Hegseth and the Army's top echelon. The Pentagon chief ordered Army Secretary Dan Driscoll to remove one of his top advisors, Colonel David Butler, in February. And I'm going to tell you why all of this is going on, and it's no secret. Pete Buy Me Drink Hegseth looks at his role of running the military as a high school project, because this is a mindset of Pete Hegseth. He thinks he's playing a video game in real time with real people. He loves war. Because when he was in the service himself, he felt that he was, mistreated and avoided ranks and all this. So now he just like Trump, he's on a revenge tour. This is the worst time to remove the Joint Chiefs of Staff. All right, it's the worst time to remove George. When you are in the middle of a major conflict and a war like with Iran, this isn't Venezuela, this is Iran. You don't remove people who have all the skills and the critical thinking skills that this guy has. But Pete, no, he's going to remove him. Now, here's why he was removed. All right. Number one, it was the Army that punished these two clowns that flew, next to Kid Rock's place, and they were going to discipline him because he shouldn't have been doing that. Of course, Pete Hegseth quickly removed that and said they're not on suspension. It was just a joke. It's okay. A couple guys having fun. What's the big deal? And secondly, George was ready to promote several women and an African American in rank because they deserved it. They did their time. They were ready to promote them to generals. Pete Hegseth didn't like that. He doesn't want women and minorities promoted. He wants, white privileged men, rah, 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 macho man people. That's who he wants promoted in the military, not anybody else. So he didn't like that. And George told him, he was angry. He said, these people are ready to do that. But here's Pete. I'm Secretary of State. I'm over you. You're going to do what I tell you to do. And so he got rid of him, just like he has anybody else. This guy, he calls everybody warriors and patriots. He thinks, going to war against anybody and everything is fun. And that's what he likes to do. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to come back to bite Trump in the butt too. All right. I know he thinks he's just on his way to, being the greatest guy ever, but, I'm going to be talking next about, Trump firing Pam Bondi here in just a second, but I've been telling you right now, I think, Kash Patel and, Pete Hegseth are strong liabilities, as is a couple other people against Trump, and it's going to be a wake-up call. We are getting deeper and deeper into this conflict, and he wants trillions of dollars more, and I'm telling you right now, he says it's going to end soon. I don't think either one of these people have a game plan. I really don't. All right, moving on to the other top story that we're here to talk about, and that's Pam Bondi. Of course, Trump said she will be transitioning to a much-needed job in the private sector. Todd Blanche told Donald Trump has just released a statement on his ouster of Attorney General Pam Bondi, saying on Truth Social, Pam Bondi is a great American patriot and a loyal friend. Sure she is, who faithfully served the Attorney General over the past year. As Pam did a tremendous job overseeing a massive crackdown of crime across the country, with murders plummeting. It goes on and on. Donald Trump and his wonderful way that he likes to say things, and he basically praises her and everything else. And of course, here's the backstory on this. She showed up for one of his pressers and doing the update on the Iranian conflict, and gave her a ride in his limousine. And as he's giving her a ride in his limousine, he basically looked at her and said, Pam, you're fired. And of course, people behind the scenes said she had a tissy fit and begged to keep her job. But what he says in public, and this is Donald Trump, he's the kind of guy that will look you right in the eyes and smile at you and stab you in the back. So you don't cross Donald Trump. And, it's obvious Pam was not doing a very good job. Everybody knows that. And he finally had a wake up call and said, okay. I like the way he ended his little Truth Social. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Thank you, American people, to your attention to this matter. And so the next question is who's going to replace, Pam? Now, there's a couple of people out there, and of course, I don't think any of the Democrats like any of his choices, because whoever he picks, they're going to have to be doing the job that Pam couldn't get done, and that is prosecuting Donald Trump's enemies. He is still after every single person who ever did anything to cross him from his 2020, presidential position. Anybody that prosecuted him, he's after them. And Pam couldn't get it done, and I don't see how they think anybody else is going to be able to get it done, because, number one, there are laws in this place. There are judges out there, and even the Supreme Court now is starting to, wonder what is wrong with this guy. Trump does not believe in the U.S. Constitution. That applies to everybody else except him. The laws in this nation apply to everybody except him. And he wants to use the AG's position as his own personal federal attorney to go after everybody and anything that ever pissed him off. And so, the Epstein files is another mess that Pam Bondi created. And of course, they have already said, Todd Blanche has already said, that the case is closed with the Epstein files. There's nothing else to see on that. It is done, which goes strictly against what Congress created to say the Epstein files will be 100% transparent. And so, And of course, you remember that secret message that Trump posted to Pam that accidentally got leaked about, he wanted, some certain people prosecuted and wanted her to go after it. So, as you know, Trump fired Kristi Nome from the Homeland Security position, and Pam Bondi is now gone as AG. And I'm sure that, a couple other people will be going down the road here soon. And I'm beginning to wonder about Pete Hegseth for this mess with this Iranian conflict that Trump can't seem to find a way out. And also Kash Patel, who loves to take taxpayers' money and fly around in jets and his girlfriend to concerts and stuff around the world and call them official acts of duty. So, what we're going to have to see where we're going to be going with that, but it's interesting. Now, speaking, as I said, of Todd Blanche, this guy, he is another firecracker that, even though his position's temporary, I think they're also seriously looking at him to fulfill out Pam Bondi's term. Of course, she is still scheduled to go before the House Investigative Committee on the Epstein files, and even though she's now a private citizen, they still want her to testify. But Todd here, he's the guy that said those Epstein files are now closed and done with. All right, he's going to be taking Trump's marching orders, and whether or not he's going to, finish out her term, it's to be said, because Trump is still looking at some other people. But we'll wait and see where we're going to be going with that. All right, and I think I also mentioned to you about Kristi Nome's husband, and yeah, let's talk about that. Let's just go ahead and jump into that, because this is kind of funny. So Kristi Nome's husband, according to media sources, was involved in an online fetish community as a cross-dresser. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And his name is Brian Nome. And of course, while it's not illegal to do what you do in your own private world, whether you want to be a cross-dresser or have a fetish, that's your own damn business, right? Right. And I feel that way. Now, what happened though is Kristi's husband, while she was still head of Homeland Security before Trump dismissed her, he was paying up to $25,000. $25,000 for private video chats, dressed up as a woman at the time, and this is crazy stuff, but it's true. And so this woman that leaked this information, her name is Linda Love. Of course, that's obviously a stage name. And she's the one that broke the media because what happened, she was the one chatting with Brian. And when the Daily Mail, which is an English, publication, it had some photos, she did her own research because of the way she's getting paid and stuff, and found out it was Brian. And the reason this is all kind of big news, I'm going to go ahead and tell you why. It is, like I said, it's not so much the fact of the matter of what people do in their private life is their own business. I totally support that. But when Kristi Nome was still head of Homeland Security and Brian was doing this, he was paying these people via PayPal, Cash Apps, lots and lots of money, all right? And you don't know where these people, originate from, foreign countries or whatever, and he's doing this money. Well, they can get information, especially from Brian, about what his wife was doing, and it's a national security threat. That's the big problem here, is it's relaxed security. So that's why there's such a big stink about this. Is this didn't take place just now. It has happened when Kristi was still in her position as head of Homeland Security. So it's a big security problem. And how the hell he was getting away with all this during the time is unfit to be tied. So, Chuck Schumer, the Senate's top Democrat, he had questions about this, and he was also, like, what the hell's going on? And he also, during the same presser, had some comments about Pam Bondi's firing, too. He basically said good riddance while noting that the rot of the Department of Justice begins and ends with Donald Trump. While leading the Justice Department, Bondi was a loyal foot soldier for the president's campaign to target his perceived political enemies. Schumer added that the problems at the heart of the DOJ will continue as long as Trump uses as a tool for revenge and not law enforcement, which is what he does. And Hakeem Jeffries also believed that it's the same thing. So Trump is never going to find anybody in there that's actually going to be at a true Justice Department or Attorney General. He's going to be using these people as his own personal tool to go after people that he feels has done him wrong. Now, Speaking of Donald Trump, this is the other thing that's going on with this guy. He delivered two pressers or, speeches just recently. One was televised to the world. The other was supposed to be private, but the video got leaked anyway. So let's start with the first one. President Trump delivered a primetime address about the war of Iran on Wednesday evening, more than a month after hostilities commenced, and Trump's decision to launch the war in conjunction with Israel has come to look more and more risky, as we're well aware of, with the F-15 fighter jet being shot down. Now, the conflict has been unpopular since its inception because Congress never approved it. Trump just went ahead and did it, along with Pete Hegseth, not telling anybody anything about it. They just went ahead and did it. And now it's costing lots of money. And the conflict has been unpopular due to fact to the consumers here in the U.S. is the rising gas prices. And now we've got taxed from airlines. They have to recover their fuel costs, so they're now charging $10 a bag, figuring out ways to, cough up money to offset their fuel prices. Amazon is now starting to add a surcharge and gas tax, so is United Parcel Service. And gas now is about $4.25 a gallon on the average price across the United States. And financial markets have sharpened the cost to Americans. In opinion polls, Trump's approval ratings have now dropped or close to the lowest point in his second term, around 35%. And the president and his allies insist he deserves credit for being willing to take action against Iran. They also emphasize the successes that have been notched by the U.S. military. What? So the takeaways from Trump's speech are as follows. The headline claimed nearing completion. When. He never says when. He just says nearing. He uses it all the time. And he only spoke for about 19 minutes, and much of his rhetoric amounted to a little more than a repetition of things he's already said or posted on social media. The White House intended the headline from the speech seems to have been the claim that the U.S.'s core strategic objectives are nearing completion, and that we're going to finish it very fast. We're getting very close. He keeps using those words over and over and over again. And that the American public, there's no danger of seeing another quagmire of the kind of witness in Iraq and Afghanistan. I don't think so. I've lived through both of those. However, there was virtually nothing in terms of specifically from the president. The objectives he referred to are very subjective in their nature. And as I said, he now wants another $1.5 trillion for military spending. All right. Even the most conservative media outlets, Fox News, all of them are saying, he keeps saying that we're near the end, but you can't come up with any answers. So I can tell you right now, we're probably going to have boots on the ground since Iran now seems to have over 50% of their air capability, even though Trump said it was totally, blown away. They don't have anything. We've got air superiority over their airspace. And yet they're now starting to shoot down our aircraft left and right. All right. So I can tell you right now, they're probably going to go ahead and put boots on the ground. The Marines are going to go over and take over that island where their distributions are. Probably the next week. You mark my words. I'm sure you can see boots on the ground here very, very soon since they're now shooting down our aircraft. But if he wants $1.5 trillion from Congress, gee, if the Congress is willing to give that kind of money for war, why can't we take care of Medicare and Medicaid and insurance for the people here in the U.S.? They got money for that, but the hell with the seniors who are over 65, the hell with our elderly, the hell with people who are living in poverty here in the U.S. We got money to go blow up things and kill people, but we don't have money to take care of our own here. So this is what's sad, and this is why we see these kinds of things here. Trillion, and this war is unpopular. So I can tell you right now, I don't think even some Republicans are beginning to question things here, like. Give us some information when this thing's going to end. Nobody can do that. And plus, we already know now Trump's been lying out of his butt about what's really going on there, because Iran all of a sudden, hey, we got lots of drones, we got lots of missiles. I don't know what you're talking about. We're okay here, So, and the other thing is Iran's been giving out information before the U.S. does about what they're doing there, because they're playing this gotcha moment with them. And also President Donald Trump said it's not possible for the federal government to fund Medicare, Medicaid, and child care. Now, when did he say this? This was in another speech that the White House actually put up, and then they took it down. Of course, but all the media jumped on all this because this is supposed to be private. It's supposed to be his little Easter speech to his people, and he had all the Franklin Graham and some other evangelical people there. He read a little few things out of the Bible. He had to read it. He doesn't know the story. He read it verbatim off of a script that you can see right in here in the background. But he feels that the federal government, it's not possible for them to fund Medicare and Medicaid and child care. That should be up to states. What we should do is have money to go up and have wars and blow up things and kill people and destroy little children and families. That's what we need to have money for, is because they're all threatening the U.S., which they haven't in the past. I mean, yes, they've been, we know Iran's got a terrible regime and terrible leadership in the Ayatollah and all that. We get that. But before all this started, there's a lot of third world countries out there that have this, but you kind of use detente a little bit, just like Russia and North Korea. But anyway, I'm digressing here, but to say that, we don't need to be funding Medicare and Medicaid and child care. That's not the government's role. The states need to take care of that. And a lot of states don't have the money to do that. It's just Trump, shooting off his mouth. But going back to this little private speech that he's supposed to be having there, I watched that video. He talked more about himself and how great he is, because that's what his ego demands, over actually talking about the Bible and the resurrection of Christ. He felt he wanted to take credit for all the great things that he did. And his, this private Easter luncheon that he did have, he also accused Democrat-led states of fraud, and he wants a big investigation on that. The Republican states don't have fraud; just the Democratic states have fraud. The Republican states are great; they're all doing just such wonderful things. And he went on to say that he told Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought, don't send any money for daycare because the United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state. We can't take care of anything. Daycare, we're a big country. We have to spend all of our money on fighting people. And he says, we have 50 states. We just can't do that. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. Our wars are more important than taking care of our own people here. He just went on and on repeating himself. Like I said, there are so many people think that this guy's health and his mental capacity is starting to, drop a little bit. If you watch the video, he just consistently repeats himself, and then he goes off in another whole area. And then they have to get him back on task of reading the scriptures, and then he goes off about saying how wonderful everything he's done. And he also made a little remark about him being a king too, because of the No King's Day thing. Watch this clip real quick.
A valuable piece of real estate right back here. We had a judge, not a good judge, a judge. We had a Trump-hating judge give us things saying I have to get approval from Congress. You believe it? I'm giving $400 million to build I'm giving with donors $400 million to build a ballroom. And there's the knockout panel right here. If you look back there, if you want to look back there, you'll see the deepest hole you've ever seen. But we are under construction. We're under budget. We're ahead of schedule. And we're building a ballroom anywhere, depending on final details of the marbles we pick and everything else, anywhere from $300 to $400 million, depending on finishes. You know, we can get real expensive, beautiful finishes, or we can use Home Depot tile. It makes about $100 million. It's going to be amazing. But we had a judge that ruled that we had to go back to Congress. In the history of this building, nobody's ever gone back when they build something here. You don't go back to Congress. But we have I have a lot of unfriendly judges. Somehow we seem to get by them, but they're not good people. On Palm Sunday, Jesus entered Jerusalem as crowds welcomed him with praise, honoring him as king. They call me king now. Do you believe it? No king. I'm such a king, I can't get a ballroom approved. It's pretty amazing, right? I'm a king. If I was a king, we'd be doing a lot more. I'm doing a lot, but I could be doing a lot more if I was a king.
And besides that comment, he also said that states would have to raise their taxes to pay for child care costs, and that the federal government could lower our taxes a little bit to them to help make up for it. But he says it's just not possible to do all this other stuff, Medicare and Medicaid. You know, there's just no money for that. Seems to have been money all along until he took office, and all of a sudden it just disappeared because they sucked it all away to pay for homeland security and the defense, his big beautiful bill, as he called it. There was money there, but he had the Republicans take it all away from us so he could use it for other things that he thinks more important, to give trillions of dollars to the big corporations. He says we got to guard our country, and he said so. This is disgusting. You know, I'm a senior. And a lot of seniors live paycheck to paycheck. You know, he thinks just because he's got trillions of dollars, all the other seniors should have trillions of dollars too. I got all the money because, you know, they don't have the silver spoon concept that Trump had. So this is a problem. He just thinks when everybody reaches 65 or 70, they should already have millions of dollars. Well, why do we need to take care of them? He doesn't understand that not everybody came from wealthy families like he does. There are a lot of seniors who have a lot of health issues. His fact is, if you don't have a lot of money to take care of yourself, just go off to the North 40 and die somewhere. Get out of the way and let somebody else take over. As far as children, if you can't take care of your child, get rid of the kid then. You know, that's not our problem. We're here to fight wars. That's basically what he's saying to you, the American people. Think about it. Fight wars, blow up things, protect the homeland. And if you can't contribute to that, get out of my way. You know, go off and croak somewhere. The states are supposed to do everything. I understand the Republican theory is, you know, return things to the states. Like I said, I was a Republican for 51 years before this guy got in office. I get the concept of what the Republican Party stands for, and in many ways they are correct. There are certain things that the states themselves should do and pay for without the assistance of the federal government, but this is not one of them, all right? The federal government needs to take care of the people who live here. You know, we have fought for you. We have gone to wars for you. It is your turn to help us out, all right? We have people who work in the civil service sector who would given, and yeah, you're giving them a salary, that's fine and dandy, but you still need to take care of the people here who are less fortunate. Not everybody was born with a silver spoon in their mouth. We have American citizens here who, for no fault of their own, need assistance. All right, and that's is just like all the other countries in the world: Sweden, Denmark. I can go on and on. Finland, Germany, Canada. All of these people, all of these countries take care of their own people. All right, they provide them free education. We don't do that here. They provide them with health care, free health care. We don't do that here. Okay, and then people come back, well, the taxes, my God, they pay a hell of a lot. Well, so, yeah, I'd be willing to pay high taxes if we could take care of our people here, So, But, the Democrats seized quickly on these comments, comparing because they got a copy of that clip too, comparing the cost of child health care to the ongoing U.S. military operation in Iran, which topped $11.3 billion in its first 6 days. $11.3 billion with a B dollars in its first 6 days is what the U.S. was paying for this conflict in Iran that was not approved by Congress. And Trump says we can pay for war in Iran, but we can't afford child care. That's basically what he said, all right? The hell with child care. Let those kids go out and do something on their own. So it's yeah. It goes on and on and on, doesn't it? Yeah. All right. Let's move on to another story here that is actually kind of in our favor, and that's the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, the oral arguments of the Supreme Court on this past Wednesday left the impression that key justices do have a lot of misgivings about President Trump's effort to limit birthright citizenship. With one of the administration's banner immigration policies on the line, Trump decided to attend this thing himself. Why did he decide to attend this event himself? Because he wanted to be there to intimidate, in his opinion, the U.S. Supreme Court justices. He felt, if I show up there, you're going to be scared, you're going to be shaking in your legs, and just, you're going to do what I tell you to do because I'm staring you down, So that's why. But he got up and left when he found out that the Supreme Court justices weren't intimidated at all by his presence. So he is also the first sitting president in recorded history to scrutinize the justices as a listener in the gallery during the arguments over one of his own key policies. He hates to lose. He admits it. I hate to lose. I am a king. I hate to lose. I'm in charge here. You're going to do what I tell you to do. I appointed you. By God, you owe me. So, so here's some takeaways from the justices' questions and Trump's attendance. Trump says Steely Chief Justice John Roberts did not verbally acknowledge Trump's presence. I showed up. You need to stop everything that you're doing and say, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States has graced us with his presence. Please stop deliberations and all rise. That's what he wanted him to do, but he didn't. So he was seated halfway back in the room towards Roberts' left, but as the chief walked out to his seat, he gazed towards the right. Several other justices appeared to look straight ahead. Justice Clarence Thomas looks toward where Trump was seated. See, he would. Clarence Thomas, he is the bootlicker of the chief justices. He does do whatever Trump tells him to do. That's because Clarence Thomas has been known to be, getting little favors here and there, although he denies it. So, Virginia Brown Jackson, meanwhile, maintained a tight-lipped smile until she took her seat. As the argument got underway, the president remained stone-faced and silently listened to the proceedings, while with little expression, and contrasted with Trump's days in lower-level courtrooms where he would typically sit at his trials alongside his lawyers and would frequently whisper to them, tap on their arm and get their attention, pass them notes, etc., etc. As I said, this went on and on. I'm not going to read everything that happened at the Supreme Court hearing, but as you're well aware of, the event ended with the Supreme Court pretty much leaning towards, they haven't made a decision yet, they're not going to, favor this. The birthright citizenship is guaranteed in the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. And everybody knows that. I don't care how much they argued. If you are born in the U.S., you become a citizen. All right, and they try to argue everything and all about what they could and couldn't do, but it came down to the fact that I don't think the Supreme Court is going to be swayed either one way or the other. So anyway. And then, of course, the House Republicans announced that they are going to pass a bill advanced by the Senate last week to end the record-breaking partial Department of Homeland Security shutdown after previously rejecting the measure. Democrats quickly celebrated the win, with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying House Republicans caved after previously running a bipartisan agreement, making American families pay the price for their dysfunction. Hakeem Jeffries also lambasted the Trump administration in a statement reacting to the announcement of the DH funding bill. The House Democratic leader described Republican policies as a disaster that they have led to skyrocketing costs and the death of U.S. citizens. So, and again, Mike Johnson, as you're well aware of, who spearheads the House of Representatives, He had to come up with his own version of what they should do to fund the Homeland Security people. And, to get the TSA agents fully paid, which Trump signed an executive order, and they're not doing that. But, these guys here said they're not going to attempt to push the stopgap bill, which Democrats say have no chance of clearing the 60-vote threshold in the upper chamber. Now they just will advance this legislation, which will hardline House Republicans that previously rebuked. They will also seek to pass a wider funding for the DHS, which will include funding for enforcement and removal operations through reconciliation. That's what this whole thing is. They're just going to do a Republican-favored reconciliation bills. They don't need the Democrats, and get this done to get everybody paid. Of course, the future budget resolution will underwrite the DHS for 3 years until Trump leaves office. So that's basically what they're trying to do here. And so good for them if they can get this done. All right. But again, the reason the Democrats have done all this, there needs to be control with those ICE agents. That's the whole bottom line of this. They have killed 2 American people. All the Democrats want is control of ICE, to the fact that take down the mask, wear name tags, quit acting like you're some Gestapo agents out there, and wear body cameras so you can document what you do out there. But the Republicans, they don't want to do that. They're cool out there. They look all right. What's wrong with that? They gotta do that. So they got to do that to protect their families, is what the Republicans keep saying, to protect their families. But we don't want to protect the families that they're going after. They don't need protected, but we do. So it's ridiculous what this has all come down to. So President Trump's net approval dropped to, as I said, to the mid-30s now, and his support is dropping because of what's going on with the Epstein files and the Iranian war. We did have some good news that jobs went up this past month. The job market that did go up is basically for hourly wage people, specifically in healthcare. But this is before the Iranian war broke out, all right? So we're anxious to see what these numbers look like in the next quarter. But for these past quarter, yes, jobs went up. So that's a good news. The economy went up again, but keep in mind these numbers are pre-Iranian war numbers. I'm anxious to see what the numbers look like once they come out with the conflict of the war, because as you know, gas has skyrocketed, and a lot of things are going on with increased costs. The economy, I still believe, is going to be in the tank, and that's why he has low numbers. A 35% approval rating is terrible. And I think the president knows that, and everybody else, of course, he keeps playing, saying the numbers are skewed. Those are Democratic numbers, fake news, blah, 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 blah. And, of course, another thing that Trump has done, he, this past Tuesday, he signed an executive order to create a nationwide list of verified eligible voters and to restrict mail-in voting, a move that swiftly drew legal threats from state Democratic officials ahead of this year's midterm elections. I'm going to stop right there because this is illegal, and it's going to be fought again all the way to the Supreme Court. So this is state-controlled voting. It's like what they do in North Korea and in Russia to create a massive, list of who can vote, and I want their names, numbers, social security numbers, everybody that's going to vote. That is trying to control an election. That is against the Constitution, and it is illegal. Yeah, and I can tell you right now, this thing is going to probably not go anywhere either. I don't care if you're a Republican or independent or a Democrat. You should be shaking in your boots to see something to where the federal government is going to wants to watchdog you to see how you vote, when you vote, and if you can vote. Of course, if you're a Republican sitting there, well, I don't care. I'm voting for Donald Trump. I don't have nothing to worry about. Well, not everybody in the world should be told, we in this country have a right to vote to whom we want to vote for. All right. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. This kind of crap here is freaking scary. And it's another lead towards becoming a state-controlled country. If that's what you want, then good for you, I guess. If you want to live in an authoritarian state-controlled, country to where once they tell you, where you're going to vote, how you're going to vote, and who you're going to vote with, and again, he wants to put ICE there. So as you're voting, you got somebody sitting there with an M15 stuck in your face. That's what it's coming down to. And the president has repeatedly lied about the outcome of the 2020 presidential election. That's why he wants to do this. He still feels he got screwed in the butt from the 2020 election. He keeps saying it was a fraud. So this is why he wants a voter list. Find out who's voting, how they were going to vote, and whether they actually can vote. And it seeks to bar the U.S. Postal Service from sending absentee ballots out, too. He doesn't want them to do that either. He feels that all the absentee ballots are frauds, too. They're cheating. This guy... He's got problems up here, folks. He's going bonkers. And also what's going on here, too, is more than 10,000 veterans lost their homes to foreclosure since last May when the Trump administration shut down a key safety net in the VA homes for loan programs. You hearing me, veterans? U.S. veterans, are you hearing this? Are you hearing this? 10,000 of you lost your homes to foreclosures since May of last year when the Trump administration shut down a key safety net program in the VA loan program. That's the highest pace of foreclosures for VA loans in a decade. Another 90,000 vets are heading towards foreclosure. This comes after a years-long debacle inside the Department of Veteran Affairs, which has whiplashed thousands of vets between various enacted and canceled programs that left many of them on the brink of losing their homes. So that is another thing that has happened with this administration. And, of course, the Trump administration kind of warned that this was going to happen. They kind of knew about it, but they did absolutely nothing about it. Now, I will be fair about this. This happened because of a mistake made during the Biden administration with when COVID hit, all right? They had to shut down a part of the pandemic assistance program while thousands of vets were still in the middle of it because of the pandemic. And what happened is they forgot to fire it back up. So National Public Radio, which Trump hates, did an investigation and they exposed the problem. And the Trump administration could have fixed it, but they didn't. They chose not to. All right. So they were aware of it and they knew it needed to be fixed. And I think from what I'm reading here in the media is on the transition, the Biden administration told them about it and said, please fix this for the vets because they were going out of office. And Trump said, yeah, we'll take care of it. But they never did. So the vets, unfortunately, started to lose their home. And that is, I'm sorry that happened. And I hope, some of these veterans can get things fixed around before they lose their homes. But because a lot of them, as I just reported to you, already have. And my final news item is I always like to bring up something that's happened here in the state of Florida with Governor Ron DeSantis, because that's where I broadcast from, is the state of Florida. He signed legislation on Wednesday to require documented proof of citizenship to require to vote and to begin process that will eventually enroll voters who have not provided citizenship documentation. So little mini Trump here, Governor Ron DeSantis, created his own little thing here about voter documentation that Trump is trying to pass on a federal level, and it's not really going anywhere. The Senate doesn't really like that. So we're the third state to pass proof of citizenship laws for voting this year after South Dakota and Utah's governors, very red states, each signed proof of citizenship bills passed here in March. And the Florida law will require that Florida Department of State to identify registered voters who may not be citizens and therefore ineligible, checking their registration against state and federal records to determine citizenship. A potentially ineligible voter will be contacted by the registrar and asked to provide documentation and then unenrolled if they can't do so. The law also adds U.S. passport cards to the list of types of ID acceptable, as well as driver's licenses with the little star in the upper right-hand corner, while removing retirement center IDs, public assistance IDs, neighborhood association IDs, and debit and credit cards as acceptable IDs. These changes will take effect on January 1st, 2027, so it will not affect the midterms. Now, my take on this is that for about 90% of the voters in the state of Florida, this really doesn't make any difference because all of us have our driver's licenses with the star in the upper right-hand corner. And the star in the upper right-hand corner, as you're well aware of, which became federal law, to get that, you had to provide documentation that you're basically a U.S. citizen. All right, you had to show your passport or your birth certificate to get that star, and therefore that's fine and dandy. But here's the problem, and I think this law is going to come back and bite the Republicans in the butt. And I'll tell you why. A lot of senior voters, and there's a lot of them here in the state of Florida, they don't drive anymore. They don't have their birth certificate. You know, if you're 75, 80 years old, you're lucky you can remember where, you know, you put your Social Security card in the drawer. It's a tough problem. So, and they can't use any senior assistance, you know, within the places they live to go vote. So if these seniors have given up their driver's licenses because they can't drive anymore due to no fault of their own other than age or health problems, they don't have a state ID card because if it doesn't have the star on it, that's not going to work anymore. All right. So, and they don't have a passport because they're not able to fly. All right. So what are these people supposed to do? The other problem, you can vote at 18, as you're well aware of federally. A lot of 18-year-olds, you know, still don't have their driver's licenses yet. You know, they're in college. They might use public transportation or their mom and dad pick them up and stuff. Now, it might be a little easier for mom and dad to get these young people's birth certificates or something because, you know, that's what they're there for. Just so, you know, they go, Mom, I need my birth certificate so I can go vote. You know, because I don't have a driver's license yet. Okay, but a lot of them, again, may not have one. All right, you've got adopted children. They, you know, and you've got married people whose last name is different than what their birth certificate says. You know, you got maybe Mary Jones, but her birth certificate says Mary Adams or something. See, you see the little problems here. Do you see this, folks? What can happen? You know. But I think the biggest issue here is going to be your senior population, you know, and they've got to come up with some kind of solution for that because you're basically alienating the seniors and some young people. So we'll have to see where that goes. All right. So that's your edition of the Right Has Left podcast for this week. A lot of news, a lot of information out there, a lot of crap going on, and it's always something every week, isn't it, folks? But anyway, until next time, you try to have a good week. Until then, this is Roy Garten. Talk to you later.